Before we begin, let us just have a moment of silence for all of our fallen heroes. Here we can see all of our computers that have been gutted out for parts. They came here in pieces, and now they are no more. Regardless, they will not be completely tossed out, but instead properly recycled and reused into something even greater. So, let us have a look and see just how much we were able to receive. This first part will be the steel, so we'll just look at the steel cases, and we will weigh each computer that we took apart in sequence. So this first computer was the Dell Dimension 4550, and it weighs 16 pounds 4.4 ounces. Our first mystery PC was next, weighing in at 13 pounds, 1 ounce roughly. Our next mystery PC, the translucent purple one, was 8 pounds 4 ounces. Our Optiplex GX110, the Dell, weighed 20 pounds 9 ounces, pretty heavy. Our next mystery PC, the third one, ended up weighing only 5 pounds 7 ounces. The next thing was our next mystery computer, which weighed 11 pounds 1.6 ounces. And now our next Optiplex GX1, one of my favorite computers to take apart, and we ended up getting a whopping 19 pounds 12 ounces. Our next computer was the Dell Dimension E310, a popular choice in schools, weighing in 14 pounds 15 ounces. Our next computer was another mystery computer that had an Intel badge on it, and it weighed 11 pounds 3 ounces. We now had another mystery computer with a K6 sticker, 8 pounds 8 ounces. Our next HP Pavilion computer, which is our bonus, weighing 7 pounds 7.2 ounces. And our final computer, the massive workstation, surprisingly weighed only 16 pounds and a couple ounces. And our leftover cases here. As you can see, we got quite a few little panels here. We saved them all for the weight, and you can see the weight just adding up real fast. You can see we had 15 pounds 9.6 ounces. And all of our cases are there. So quite a bit of stuff, and you can see all of the computer's total weight being 168 pounds. So now we're moving on to the DVD drives. And turning it on here, we will be using our handy little cardboard box here to hold everything. So we're going to be sure to tear that out and now weigh each and every drive. As you can see, we're just going to lay down one drive, and each one will be laid out in sequence, and you can see just how much weight we get. As you can see, we got 19 pounds 14 ounces roughly, and as an approximate weight, we're just going to not really worry too much about the decimal. So now we're going to weigh our floppy drives. We got quite a few in here since a lot of these computers were turn of the millennium. So a lot of 90s and 2000s computers here. And you can see our weight is 8 pounds 2 ounces. So not too bad, quite a few floppy drives. Our next part was the wiring. Now, we're really mostly getting our weight in power supply wires. You can see all the power supply connectors and everything. And you can see that we ended up getting quite a bit of wire here, about 4 pounds 11 ounces. Now, we're going to get on to the power supplies. Now, we're going to weigh these out in sequence, so the first crazy big one, followed by our next set of power supplies here. Just all the smaller sized ones we're just going to weigh out, followed by another stack of power supplies as well. We got quite a few here. We ended up getting a total of 21 pounds approximately. So now we're just going to take a look at another weird pocket media drive bay, which is really just an insulated wire piece. So let's just go ahead and move on to our steel screws here. We got a few big ones and then a bunch of small screws, and we kept absolutely everything just for this weigh out, so it's pretty interesting to see the results. We ended up getting about 11 ounces. Now we're moving on to our case fans. We're starting to get into the more interesting territory here with our stuff, and you can see quite a few case fans. Total of 3 pounds, 1 ounce. Now, we're going to look at our aluminum heat sinks. So you can see that heatsink has an impression of the CPU's design on it, so I thought that was pretty crazy, but we got 3 pounds, 4 ounces of aluminum heat sinks. Now, we're moving on to the hard drives. So these hard drives were mostly mechanical and there weren't too many of them in this case. Most of our weight came from steel and only a few of the computers had hard drives in it, not every single one, which is why computers are mainly hit and miss. But we ended up getting 7 pounds 10 ounces, so not too bad. Now we are splitting up our motherboards into several parts. Our small socket pinless CPU motherboards are weighed first, followed by our ordinary pinned small socket CPU, and our colorful large socket motherboards. We got a few of those. Some of them have that hole in the middle and others don't. Now we're getting into the good stuff. Our green large socket motherboards. We got quite a few of those. Keep in mind that we will want to remove the batteries out of these, but I just kept them in just for now. Now we have our big slotted CPU motherboards. These are pretty unusual, but I got a lot of them in this case, which is interesting. And of course we got our mega motherboard from our workstation. It's really cool looking. Probably save it for my collection too. But you can see that by itself weighs 2 pounds and we got a total weight of 12 pounds 1 ounce. Followed by the things attached to our motherboard, which are our expansion cards. We got a nice big pile of those. Each of those has pretty good gold fingers since they're a lot older, so we can definitely save those. We ended up getting 2 pounds 12 ounces of expansion cards. Now, moving on to the next part, which is our riser cards. These are like the extensions to our slot CPUs. So just 2 riser cards there. And now we're going to move on to our very limited number of low-grade boards. These are mostly what you see in the front panel for connecting other things. So we only got about 5 ounces of those. So not too much. Now we of course got our other front panel connectors, which is our ordinary multimedia bay USB type connectors. We just got a bunch of wire in there with some steel and we got 1 pound 12 ounces. Now we got our memories here and we are switching to metric units because these are rather valuable. So I like to switch to metric for that reason. We're getting about 2 ounces of about 2 ounces of the old style, and you can see, yeah, I dropped a bunch of those memory sticks, but regardless, they're not really super valuable just because they're pretty old, but I might see if I can sell these as a big lot of untested memory. And you can see we got 6 sticks of those. So moving on to our CPUs here, we got a pinless CPU, very nice. Got a second one actually, 45 grams total. Now we have our small size fiber CPUs that are pinned. We ended up getting 2 individual ones for 55 grams. Now we ended up getting some ceramic CPUs here. Pretty good. I really enjoy having these little ceramics here. Even though they're relatively low grade, 55 grams. What you see is what you get. So moving out to metric into US, we had quite a few slot CPUs in this case. We ended up getting a total of 4 slot CPUs with a total weight of 2 pounds 1.6 ounces. And now, of course, we have our bonus content, which was that stuff in the box. So we got just a bunch of wiring here and there, nothing too special. We got an IO shield, a couple pieces of wire. We ended up getting an empty anti-static bag as well as a motherboard here with some CPU, heatsink, and fans still attached. So we are removing the fan there by twisting on some little knobs on each corner, popping off that particular heatsink, and we can see our pinless CPU in there. So we just press down on the lever, lift back on the metal bracket, and pop out our pinless CPU. So we ended up getting a additional extra pin the CPU here. And you can see our results. We end up getting a small socket pinless CPU, a aluminum heatsink with a fan attached to it. Here's a little side view and its weight, as well as a nice view of the silver paste on the bottom, as well as on the CPU itself. And you can see our wiring that we ended up getting. So, you know, it wasn't too bad, and I really thought this was a great teardown and project. So it took me very long to actually finish it, but let's just go ahead and take a look and see just what we got. Alrighty, here are our results. You can see we have our 12 computers, our 12 numbered columns. Number 1 was our first computer that we encountered, and number 12 was our last, as well as an extra column for that box of random miscellaneous computer parts that we saw. So let's just take a look and see which computer had the most number of parts in them. Using a little simple Excel function of summation, summing up all the parts in each of these columns, we came out with this result. Now what's kind of interesting is that on average we had 8.8 parts per computer, but number 11 had 15 parts, so that was quite packed with material. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But we did also get a computer with only 3 parts as well. Not a lot of material there, so that's kind of interesting. But on average, you would expect around 8 parts in our case per computer. So now, let's take a look at this information from a different perspective. What about frequency? Which part do you think is the most common out of all of these parts listed? Now this isn't a complete list, of course, but this is going to give you most of your goods. Like you got types of CPUs, you got types of motherboards, fans, you know, we got cards, many types of things. So let's see just what is most common in these computers. And the results are, that's right, fans are the most popular at 15. But something else that's pretty popular too are the power supplies and also the CD and DVD drives. So that's pretty cool. But you know what? I still have one bit of information I still want to figure out. How many parts total did we receive on this list? And that answer is 115. Over 100 parts were recovered from all of these computers, and including that box as well. So that's kind of cool. So now let's just take a look and see just how much weight we have, because we have quantity, but we don't have how much they all weigh together. And with that information, we're going to switch to a new screen. Now, as you can see here, we have a short list of pretty much everything that we would figure out that's inside these computers. Now, as you can see, we have aluminum is one example. So the components kind of overlap in this case, like the motherboards that are small socket but colored or not, just green. They all fit in the small motherboard category, as well as the large motherboards. That includes our slotted CPU motherboards too. So we do have a slot CPU category as well, but we also have all of our steel. Note there's no fans here because I have lumped that into the steel category just because there's so much plastic and very little metal, it really just goes straight into steel. Now if we also take a look, the slot CPUs have a big aluminum heatsink, so I took them apart and actually lumped those weights in there and factored it into the aluminum heatsink's weight. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. But aside from that, we will go ahead and take a look at the amount of poundage. Just how much weight did we get? As you can see, we had quite a bit of steel, 173.7 pounds of steel. Now keep in mind there are now ounces on these, even though I weighed these out with a scale. So instead what I did was I converted the partial poundage, just in ounces, into decimal pounds. So, you know, there's 16 ounces in a pound, so let's say I had 8 out of 16 pounds, that would be 8 divided by 16, which would be 0.5. So I just kind of tacked on the weight plus the ounces on top of that to get these weights. So yeah, quite a bit of steel. Now these rates are with respect to the December 29th, 2021 prices on boardsort.com. You can see it's kind of an international buyer of electronic scrap, at least in the US, so all the weights are per pound, and these are the rates that they offer. So as you can see, there are some quite bulky prices on there, like for the memory being $22 a pound, as well as ceramic CPUs at $26 a pound. But it also goes down to as low as 3 cents a pound for steel. So as you can see, these are the rates. Now if we were to multiply our pounds by our rate per pound, we will get our total value in material, and that would be this information. So as you can see, we did quite well with the large motherboards and the cards, and despite having so much weight in steel, we only got $5 out of it, so that's kind of sad. But regardless, it's still money, and with all this information that we have, our total value is, drumroll please, there we go, $105.29. So we did pretty well in this case, and I'm really happy with what we got. I mean, we didn't have to spend any money on this, and it was all free money, so that was a pretty cool thing. Now of course I'm not going to get nearly as much money as this, mainly because I will be processing a lot of the electronic boards to get off some of their values, so I'm not going to get nearly as much money, but it's kind of cool to see the total value of everything here and what it's worth. Now of course it's not perfect, this is just an estimation, so some of my numbers may be wrong, or I might not get nearly as much as it says on here, but it's still kind of cool, and I hope you enjoyed the video regardless. So yes, I can finally say I am done with this video series, and we will be getting straight back into taking apart random things. I have a ton of videos I have prepared, but have not put together yet, so I hope you enjoy those videos. And yes, I have reached over 500 subscribers, so thank you all so much. And for all the new people that have come in since I uploaded a video last, thank you so much. And since I have 500 subscribers, YouTube lowered the requirement to post community posts, so I hope to post random things on there, as well as other footage for my other channel and other videos and information and such. So I hope you enjoy the content that's to come, and stick around because I do have more material coming. So I wish you all the very best for your New Year's Day. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a wonderful 2022.